Good evening, my name is Leoric Silverbloom, and I'll be your host for tonight. This evening, we'll talk about Guildmasters' Guide to Ravnica, the guilds, and how to incorporate them into your campaign. As usual, I'll give you some idea on how to implement the 10 guilds into your campaign, and please do keep in mind that this will just be my personal opinion and preference, so you're free to modify them as you see fit. I have to tell you that Ravnica is my favorite lane in MTG, and I was so delighted when they announced the Guildmasters Guide to Ravnica supplements for D&D 5e. And yeah, the setting really holds a special place in my heart. I must admit that I kinda dug myself into a hole here, since there's a shitload to cover about this plane and its guild. And right, that being said, let's move to our first guild.
I am the law.
Azorius Senate, the perfect guild to lay the ground rules of your campaign. If you need to set a rule like no magic without license, you can use the Azorius to enforce it on your players. They're the police, the lawmakers, the politicians, everything that you hate except the taxmen and the loan sharks. That one belongs to another guild down the line. They're the glue that keeps Ravnica together. The guild that keeps the other from fighting each other to death, I guess. That being said, justice can be blind, especially if huge amount of money is involved. During the previous Guildmasters' reign, they are known for their corruption. Yeah, rampant huge corruption. Personally, I like to use them to slow down the party, like making them wait for some clearance before raid or something. Other than that, they can issue some legal papers and stuff like that. You can make a political and bureaucracy-based campaign around this guild, but you know what? Who am I kidding? Who's actually crazy enough to run such campaign anyway? A good old police drama is where it's at. That's how you play an Azorius campaign. There's no other way to play them, like nada. There's enough of the good boys. I mean, I'm getting bored talking about them, so let's dial up the chaos a little bit, shall we?
Yes, science!
Right. You want to play a sci-fi campaign, but your players insisted on good old fantasy settings. Yeah, Izzet is your guild. You want a ray gun? Izzet. Jetpack? Izzet. Hell, they even come with their own brand of Pip-Boy. I am not kidding. Anything you can find in any sci-fi setting, you probably can fit it here. I mean, they got everything from steampunk to laser-based weaponry. Yeah, they got look at it over there, the Tesla coil. Yeah, the steampunk design on their guild gate. Yeah, look at it, beautiful, love it. I'm sorry, I got carried away. Anyway, an Izzet-centric campaign can focus on research, and maybe I personally like to implement research trees, and maybe you can like incite your players with better equipments, magical items, unstable artifacts, and science. You want the player to take a scientific approach towards a conflict or a problem. Maybe make them find a way to deal with the planes depleting mana stores or something modern like that. You can easily modify a modern problem to fit this kind of campaign. Personally, I like to use them as a plot point to move the plot forward because they're a big, giant target. You can have the Golgari, the Simic, the Gruul, or even the Azorius to raid an Izzet laboratory for one reason or another. They're that big of a target. They can also come up with a device that the players may need or can use for plot reasons. If your players want to play a LOL randoms campaign, yeah, throw them here.
How can this be for the greater good? Shut it!
Yes, the military police of Ravnica. This is your standard good line D&D party, complete with barbarian, fighter, medic, mages, all the good stuff. They're the closest you can get to a vanilla D&D party in Ravnica, and that's it really. Also another candidate for a good buddy cop campaign. If Azorius is about law and order, then Boros is your righteousness and heroism. they're not afraid to break the law if they think that's for the greater good. Though that being said, that is not the norm, and they will only do that if that's really necessary. They're not afraid to kill if needed, but don't overdo that part. Think of them like the SWAT team or military police that's deployed when shit hits the fan. Also, they have this angel carrier flying fortress and role evading prison in the sky because if the Azorius cannot reach them, so does their law. The law only applied if there's somebody to enforce it.
Nothing is true. Everything is permitted.
The Dimir, the humble librarian and couriers of Ravnica. And behind the closed doors, they're the sewer-dwelling lit hackers. Imagine the Matrix, complete with the long trench coat and the over-the-top action. Yeah, I am not kidding. They're the guild that can be seen. Except that the arts always shown them in full regalia and not conspicuous at all. Like, have you ever played a Assassin's Creed game? Yeah, they look like that. Well, they are the internet of Ravnica. They can be anywhere and anyone, carrying any kind of information and secrets with them. The one that you can see on the street and bars and markets are there for a reason. They want to be seen. They want you to know that you're being watched. Also, they're the only guild that challenge Golgari's dominance in the Undercity with their slithering horrors and underground bases. And if you see an abandoned area with no Gruul or Golgari sign on it, yeah, be afraid. Be very afraid. As a DM, use them as your info dump and your Deus Ex Machina. You need to rescue the party from an Azorius court? The judge is a disguised Dimir spy with the mission to release the party for whatever reason. Your player flirts with a random mate? Dimir spy, here's a new character sheet for you. So yeah, as I said, they're the best DMing tool in Ravnica. Hell, they can even deal with mass memory manipulation if you want to retcon an event. You can just like retcon it in character, in lore. Yes, the Guild of Rakdos, home sweet home. The Guild of Pleasure and Excess, of Slavery and Nightclubs, of Pain and Masochism. If you need a random chaos and destruction and general mayhem really, Rakdos is the guild you're looking for. Need something to crash a funeral and play with a corpse like a puppet? Rakdos. Your players taking their sweet time browsing? Rakdos Raid. That being said, they're not just about chaos and murder. And yeah, they run the entertainment district in Ravnica. Think of Slanesh cultists from Warhammer, but less purple and more spiky. Yes, more spiky than Slanesh cultists. I know it's hard to believe. Their district is as fun as it is dangerous, so it's your job as a DM to balance it out. The higher up of Rakdos is surprisingly less chaotic. The circus ringmaster, event organizer, club owners, blood witch, and so and so. So you can have some kind of deal with them, just make sure to watch your back. Also, it is important not to think of them as the bad guy. That is one of the challenge for you as a DM. They're still a part of a functioning system. Even as a force of chaos, the Rakdos were a source for law-abiding guilds. When the denizen of Ravnica needed an obstacle removed or an unsavory client entertained, we will be happy to oblige. I can talk for hours about this guild. This is my home guild, but enough of them, okay? Let's move on. The Orzhov, where religion and greed meets and cause millions to bleed. Just like what I've read in your history, they're your loan sharks, bankers, tax collectors, priests, popes, along with the people indebted to them. It's a church, a crime syndicate, and a golem workshop rolled into one. And yes, golem workshop. Most people forget that last part, but really their body modification art is second only to the Simic. And what else? Oh yeah, their own military and policing force, separate from the Azorius and Boros, because they're rich enough to fund their own brand of justice and law enforcement. They are the best guild for a campaign about backstabbing in the family and ill-gotten inheritance. If you want this kind of drama, then Orzhov it is. They're like Skaven with money and class and gold, I guess. That being said, they're the home of class and beauty in Ravnica. And they're my second home, and I must tell you that the Orzhov and Rakdos is a good combo. Imagine Orzhov's money with Rakdos' excessive lifestyle. Yeah, perfect.
The worms crawl in, the worms crawl out.
Yes, the scum of the society. They live in the sewer where they belong, along with things that goes bumpy in the dark. Well, I guess they gave those with nowhere to go a place to call home. Bloody hell. They might see the rot around them as blessings. Also, for those who watches over natural rot and decay, they practice too much necromancy, I think. I mean, I'm all for free workforce and all, but aren't you supposed to protect the natural circle of life and death? They are the recycling factory of Ravnica, digging our own waste for treasure. They grow mushroom farms from dead bodies. It's known as the rot farm. I don't want to know what they do in there. That way they can produce food cheaply, and that is how they feed the poor and the downtrodden. You know what? I'd rather die than to eat their food, to be honest. If left unchecked, they will take over the city like a fetid slime of mold. I'm sorry. I let my disgust for the guild to surface. How unsightly of me. Anyway, as a DM, you have to learn about their culture, lest your Golgari campaign can turn into a discount Underdark. They got more culture than just the bacteria on their filthy skins, admittedly. And their way of necromancy is a bit unique and respectful to the dead, more so than the normal necromancy, especially the Dimirs. But that's that. That's the only good thing I can tell about them. Selesnya Conclave. A bunch of smelly hippies with no money. I'm sorry, I have to warn you that my disgust towards them surpasses my disgust for the Golgari. Those conservationists hides behind their charities and peace speech. I have to tell you that their bureaucracy can rival even Azorius. Can you imagine that? Voice of the collective, my ass. More like the voice of I can't decide for myself. Also, for some reason, they are very popular with the masses, and their number expands at an alarming rate. I guess a peaceful cult that gives you a lot of free stuff really appeals to the masses. I also heard from my source that they're secretly growing their numbers. They're growing an army, which can be a problem, really, considering their number. I don't know what they're planning, but we need to cut off some of their branches, I tell you. How do you use them? A major religion of nature cultists and preachers or something. Who the hell cares? You know, really, the Gruul, really? 3 nature freaks in a row? Are you kidding?
What is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of your women.
They are the barbarians at the age of the civilized world. The primal danger of untamed lands where the strong eats the weak. They're supposed to be the keeper of nature, but they lost their way a long time ago. Now they're nothing more than a bunch of anti-urban rioters hell-bent on reducing the city to rubble. A bunch of anarchists with nothing much to do, I tell you. They celebrate base urges and live by the instinct, and they consider all of civilization to be an elaborate cage for that suppresses desire. Well, to me that makes them a good lover, or so I heard. I like to use them as a world border for my players, make the area around the main district surrounded by the Gruul's rubble belt. And even if they break through your barricade, you got enough time to cook up something for your players. Also sudden rage, just like the Rakdos. There, I covered them. To the last guild, please.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Finally, a guild with refined tastes, the Simic. They're the physicians and doctors of Ravnica, also researchers and scientists. I must admit that they're too obsessed with biomodification and sea animals, but I must admire their endless pursuit for perfection, even if their way is a bit dodgy at times. And yeah, as I said, they're Ravnica's healer and biologist. I don't know how those two roles ends up producing Sharkto Crab and Jellyfish Elf Lady, but that being said, as a healer, they can even fix lost limbs, admittedly with some side effect. But yeah, they're like a Pokemon center for your players. You know what? Talking about Pokemon, they also known for their pet homunculi and crazes, so yeah, if your players want a Pokemon campaign, I guess. And what's a crazes, you may ask? They're basically a Chimera Kaiju, like giant Hydra Jellyfish hybrid or Frog Lizard Drake hybrid. One way to use them is for your players to chase after a runaway Crazes. And the fun part is you can adjust the mutation as needed. Oh, and don't forget the new player race. You can be a Simic hybrid yourself if you want. And phew, that's all 10 guilds covered. Well, I'll be damned. I dug myself into grave there. Whose great idea was it to cover all 10 guilds in a video? And before this, we even want to cover the whole book in a single video. Since I love this setting so much, I might make this into a series probably. By making a video for each guild individually and goes deep into their lore. Since this video ends up just being an overview of each guild. Oh, maybe, just a maybe, we can interview our players from Ravnica. My players from Ravnica. Let's do an interview. Alright, thank you so much for watching. This is one hell of an undertaking for me. And yeah, I really thank you for watching until the end. I cannot thank you enough for your support. And again, thank you and good night.